Yo guys, so today I thought I would talk about the future and the future of Battlefield, the future of streaming, and basically just how I'm feeling at the moment about everything, and also to thank everyone for 50,000 followers on Twitch, which happened literally. I went from 42,000 to 50k in like a week. It was nuts, dude. I'm just gonna mention now that the audio quality is probably not gonna be the best. I'm still using my microphone for my headset, but I recently ordered a cool streamer YouTuber condenser microphone with one of those cool scissor stands, so the audio quality of my streams and my videos should be improved relatively soon. So I'll let you know about that when I get it. But moving on to talk about basically my feelings about Hardline and the Battlefield franchise in general. You know, basically, I've had a lot of fun. Like, I was watching a video by Matimio recently, and he was talking about the reasons why Battlefield Hardline isn't as popular a game as it should be or is, and why it's struggling with player counts. And even though people have bought the game originally, they're not playing it anymore. And I kind of agree with that. The way that I don't know, well, the way that it's been designed, the way that the maps have been designed, is that they've been designed for specific modes. So certain maps suit Conquest and Hotwire, whereas certain maps suit what's it called, Heist and Blood Money. For instance, Hollywood Heights, Grow House, and Bank Job, they only support the close quarters modes, or Blood Money and Heist. You see, so you end up missing out. Well, you can play Conquest on them, I think, but I mean, you can't play modes like Hotwire, which makes sense because the maps are so small. You couldn't have cars driving around. You know, it makes sense. However, the other thing is that I feel is important to note is, since they've got rid of certain modes, such as Rush, which of course was my favourite mode from Battlefield 4. Yeah, the reason why I liked Rush so much was because it used up the entirety of the map. Every single time the objectives moved up, you would be playing in a different part of the map. And I think another big problem with the replayability of Hardline is that every time you're playing Blood Money, every time you're playing Heist, the objectives are in the same place every time. So it doesn't create a new experience. You're always fighting in the same places. A lot of the map is left redundant because people aren't there's no point in people going there. There's so many parts of the map on Blood Money and Heist where people just, there's no point in going because there's not going to be anyone there. So everyone ends up just clustered in this one place every single time, every time that mode and map is played. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why this just isn't as popular. You're always having the same experience in the same locations on the maps. So even though these maps are relatively, large, they end up being empty in most places. Now, talking about the size of the maps is obviously another thing, because if you notice, the largest map I think in Hardline would be Dust Bowl, and if you compare that to the size of other maps from other Battlefield titles, we're talking it's tiny. It's a tiny map, and I think, to be honest, I think that suits Hardline's gameplay. But obviously, when you're talking about a Battlefield title, every single Battlefield before that has always had, these enormous maps where there's always action going on all over it. And I think because this is much more infantry orientated, it just feels like a smaller game. It feels like there's less going on. Moving on from talking about maps and modes and things, we then have to talk about other issues which seem to have not been addressed as quickly as we'd liked. So, for instance, the K10 being overpowered. Like, I think it was wasn't it in the beta? And people still complained about it in the beta, and they were saying, dude, this is way overpowered, like, you can't allow this in the game. It was still not changed. And you could see, even from stats alone, that an RPM of 1,200. Same with the Mach 10. It doesn't really work in a close quarters game like this. It's just too powerful. You have to tone it down. And then of course you've got the other problem of the fact that there's only a couple of weapons per class which are viable. Now people can argue with me about this, but frankly, especially in the sniper class, which is what I primarily play, there's only really two snipers which you should bother using. You've got the Scout Elite with its high RPM, headshots at all ranges, and two-shot body shot. And you've got the 300 knockout, which is a one-shot at close range. Now the AWM and the R700, their stats just can't match up to either the 300 knockout at close range or the Scout Elite at the longer ranges. It's just, there is, just stats alone, there is no point in using these sniper rifles apart from the Magnum ammo, which of course, as we know, got nerfed into the ground, but apparently they've changed that in the patch, I'm not sure. And it carries over to the other classes, so, in the assault class you should only really use the M416, the AKM, and the M16A3, and they're really the only guns that people use. And it's the same with the battle rifles and the SMGs. There's only a couple of guns that anyone ever uses because it just seems like the other guns don't have the stats, and it makes them redundant, and it makes a less replayable experience because you've got to use the same guns, otherwise you're going to be at a disadvantage. Another big difference between the release of Battlefield 4 and Battlefield Hardline was when Battlefield 4 was released. I remember that almost, I believe it was 2 weeks later, they'd released a map pack, and I honestly believe if they hadn't have done that, something similar might have happened with Battlefield 4. Don't get me wrong, I know they're completely different releases, and like the way everything happened was completely different. But I mean, I think I kind of got used to that. Like I was so happy that they released a map pack like straight away, China Rising BF4. You remember that? And it got released within 2 weeks of Battlefield 4 being released. I know that was kind of a way of just settling everyone down because everyone was unhappy. But I honestly do believe that, even though it's early days, there already needs to be more content. Otherwise, people are just going to lose interest, unfortunately. And I mean, I don't think they will release more content, frankly. I think it's possibly too early, that it's not ready. But honestly, like, that might be the only way to bring people back into the game, because I just find myself playing the same maps and the same modes, and so yeah, it is just a problem with content and variety. I just feel like the gameplay can be quite repetitive because there just isn't enough variety and content which something from the Battlefield series would usually offer. And that's the thing, I don't want people to get me wrong, I do think that Hardline's a good game. I think it has great potential, which it does, and it still has great potential, but it just needs kind of a few more things to keep people interested over a longer period of time. So regarding what I'm going to do with the stream, I'm still going to stream Battlefield 4 and Battlefield Hardline primarily. Like, that's the game I'm always going to go back to when there's nothing else going on, because I still enjoy playing those games. It's just that until there's new content released, I'm not going to play it as often, if you understand. It's just, I just can't bring myself to play it every single day. But I've been having a lot of fun with GTA 5. We're currently doing the $10 million heist challenge, and there's a few other games on the horizon. Obviously, Battlefront's quite a long way away. Overwatch is another game we're really looking forward to, which is, it's similar. Don't get me wrong, alright? People saying, it's a similar game to Team Fortress 2 with kind of like the class system and its art style. I'm not going to make any other, connections, but I'm just, it's similar. It's not the same, but I'm looking forward to seeing what those can offer in the future. But yeah, as I said, I'm still going to be streaming about BF4 and Hardline when updates are released, but it just won't be every single day. But anyway, guys, that's all I really wanted to talk about, and I'll see you in the stream, I guess. So yeah, peace. Later.